the league is the guys on the show and the creators of the show. I just beat Mark Duplass handily this past week, and I won the league last week, but I'm not here to talk shit about how incompetent the rest of my team is. I'm also not here to talk about the league, so let's talk about Kroll Show.
Okay.
Or we can talk about the league, but let's talk about Kroll Show.
Alright, I know sketch as like TV show, because in the past it was sort of like starting to become a dying medium, but in the past few years with like Portlandia, Key and Peele, and now Kroll Show, I think it's definitely coming back to the forefront. So what would you guys say makes Kroll Show different from the ones that are out there right now?
Johnathan Levinstein, who directs our show and is an executive producer, directs Portlandia and had worked on Tim and Eric before it. So for one, he's a police to anything that we would ever do. He's like, we did something like that in Portlandia. But I also think Portlandia is specific to that world and is brilliantly depicts that world. I think what that sketches to Portlandia is what we're doing for all of television. So I think we dissect like every version of TV, whether it's something that looks like it could be on ESPN or a reality show on Bravo or an infomercial late night or a local public access show or a Ghost Hunters parody. I think what we're doing is both sketch and narrative because it's characters come back throughout the season and genres are sort of just decimated in a way.
I feel like we're playing to Nick's strengths as an actor also. Like a lot of the sketches have a lot of raw emotion in them, and we have a lot of stuff that Nick can actually play. So in that way, we're trying to stay away from the premise sketches, the one-joke sketches, the sketches that are based on titles. So I think that kind of thing that goes along with the narrative is the focus on character.
Are you going to have like any narrative story arcs for any of the characters in the sketches?
Yeah, well, like Publicity, which if you saw the pilot, for example, leads to an avalanche of reality show spin-offs. So Dr. Armand, who plays the animal plastic surgeon, gets his own spin-off in the second episode, and then he gets divorced and ends up living the bachelor life, and he gets a show called Armand About Town, which then leads to Andy Milonakis, his son, who's Roman. Roman gets his own spin-off called Roman's Empire, and so on and so forth. So, and you'll see those characters throughout, and then, but you also see more Publicity. So, Publicity has an arc. Rich Dicks appeared throughout the season. So, I don't know if there was a specific arc, but you see them sort of.
Yeah, you see them grow as people throughout their.
Yeah.
The arc is more internal, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people will pick up on it.
Yeah. And Oh Hello, it's more, so there are storylines throughout a season, but it's also more you just get further and further into it. Ref Jeff, who's the ref overheard on the court, you see him in prison, and then you see him in a home video. So you see him in various forms, and you learn more about him throughout the season. That interesting.
I know Bobby Bottle Service is showing up. Some of your older characters are showing up. How much did you feel you needed to bring those in, or were you really compelled to like explore new characters?
I think these guys can answer as well. I mean, I feel like everything was fair game for the room, and whatever the room felt most excited about was what we focused on. And so Bobby comes in various forms. I think we had felt like Ed Hardy boys. Ed Hardy is no longer a super relevant term at this point. But Bobby and Peter are still interesting to watch, and it became Ghost Bouncers. But then Bobby also does like a Skype, has a completely separate Skype interview thing with Chelsea Peretti, and that felt a new way to do Bobby that we hadn't seen him. There's some Fabrice, but not a ton. Chupacabra existed in a few elements, but is an interesting one to do in a live taping, or not live, in a video. Rich Dicks still felt very fertile to us, and something that we wanted to do a lot of. Oh Hello we hadn't done in a while, and we did in various forms, both as like a Woody Allen looking sort of filmic, but also then like Manhattan Network cable like public access prank show that Jeffrey Brian is in. So it's there is there. So it's both the returning stuff and then a whole bunch of new stuff. There's a thing we did with Fred Armisen, like an HBO boxing, like those 24/7 boxing things, all in Spanish. Me and Fred Armisen, he plays my son. I play an old Mexican boxing trainer, and he plays my ne'er-do-well son who's in love with origami. Jon Daly and Joe Mandy wrote Wheels Ontario in the pilot, which is a Degrassi parody, and it's a awful. It's a dissection of that weird sort of Canadian bad television, and that was exciting to us,
Yeah, it's just kind of like whatever felt compelling and whatever can kind of stand a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Some of that was always.
Yeah.
Are any of the sketches like Ali G style, where it's like you're getting like a person on the street, sort of like Borat?
Fabrice goes out into the street a little bit and plays with people, but it's never, the conceit is never to trick anybody. It's just not what I'm good at, or I'm just not comfortable with it. You have to have a certain stomach for that, and I just didn't have that. And it also felt like he's done that. Our goal was to do stuff that felt new. Reality shows have been parodied before, but I think with publicity and all the spin-offs, we have new takes on it and just are doing it so specifically that it felt fresh to us. But we're such a comedy police between Kreisel, who's been at Tim and Eric at Portlandia, and John Levinstein, who's been at Arrested Development and wrote on Life and Times of Tim that I voiced, and Daly and me have been doing internet videos and things like that for years, and podcasts, and Joe Mandy. There's so many people in there who've been like, I've seen that. Like, we were so specifically policing ourselves to not do anything that felt derivative.
Like with Life and Tim and all of your other shows in the past, do you feel more comfortable like with the focus on you as you being able to come up with like characters, or would you rather like the Life and Times of Tim where you are the sidekick?
You can ask my siblings. I'm very comfortable as the center of attention. But I think that the beauty of the show is it's Kroll Show, but there are collaborators on almost every piece. So it's Jon Daly and me and Rich Dix or Ghost Bouncers, me and Jenny Slate for publicity, me and John Mulaney for Oh Hello, me and Armisen in the sketch, Richard Kind or Seth Morris. These are all people who are incredibly important to each sketch. So it's a constant share, and I'm still at the center of it all, but I prefer collaborating, and I think that there's a lot of fun
And
collaborating.
there's a generosity to it. We want the guest stars to shine and be really good and really happy.
It takes the weight off my shoulders, and I have so many funny friends that I'm selfishly just want to make the funniest show I can, and that means keeping everybody involved.